Hello everyone and welcome back to Backlog Banter. My name is Tucker Hazell and this is a Dev Dive, a show where I get a chance to talk to interesting game developers about their games. And today I have 5 people joining me. This is the Merge Conflict team here to talk about Gemporium, a game that they made that came out a couple months ago, and we're going to be reflecting on the whole story of this game. And I gotta be honest, when I first heard about this game, even before I even really seen gameplay or looked into it, I reached out to you guys primarily for 2 reasons. Number one, you're in Austin, I'm in Austin. I'm like, hey, that's kind of cool. I haven't really interviewed any local talent yet. But also, you released the game on my birthday, and I'm like, this is like serendipitous. I have to reach out to these people. So I have a Melody, Joseph, Karina, Connor, and Ethan here to talk about Gemporium. And I'm kind of going to give them some guidance and then let the 5 of them, all 5 people on this interview, talk about the game. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Of course.
It took a lot of research to find your birthday online. You're really elusive man, but I'm glad it worked out.
I bet that information's easily accessible to someone. It's probably my Facebook page or whatever. I don't know. Merge Conflict, Gemporium. That is the topic of today's interview. And I want to get a sort of backstory on all of you because you guys are new to game development and people might not have heard everything about you yet. And so why don't we just take turns going around, say your name, talk a little bit about what you do, and then we'll try to get into the story of how the group of you came together to make a game.
Okay, well, my name is Melody, and I am the CEO at Merge Conflict and also the producer. In addition to that, I also do a little bit of UI, but a lot of my time is spent doing some of the networking and emails and reaching out to people and trying to keep all of us on track and making games quickly and efficiently.
That's the producer job.
Yup.
And she's very good at it.
And Joseph, what about you?
I would do a lot of programming. My main, the thing that I really like that I try to focus on is more like narrative design and writing stuff, connecting, gameplay to story and things like that. I started with game development in high school 8 or 9 years ago. And then, just met everyone through student orgs and classes and stuff. And now we're here.
Now you're here. Now you've officially been on Dev Dive. It's a big moment.
Yeah.
Karina, what about you? What do you do for the team, and how'd you get involved in games?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Karina. I am the artist. I do all the art. Everything you see in Gemporium, that was me. I got into game development my freshman year of college. I did one of the game jams that was hosted by the student game dev group, and I just kind of fell in love with it. And so I joined the game dev group. I got super involved, and then I met the rest of the team after just doing so many game jams. I was like, okay, let me just do this as my major. And so here I am.
So Connor, what about you? What's your role for the team here?
Yeah, I also do programming and design, kind of like a generalist. I mean, small team, you do a lot of things. So I like bouncing around, like touching everything in the project. But I started making games my freshman year of college, and the first game I made was actually with Jojo for a game jam. So started back then, and I think over time I labeled myself as like a systems designer and like gameplay programmer, and just like as I continue to make more games, I think I like doing more things and find something. It's like, oh, I want to learn about this, and so I've just become kind of a generalist.
And let's close it off with last, but I don't know, maybe least. Ethan, what do you do for the team?
No, it's okay. I'm Ethan. I am also mainly a designer who also does programming here because that's kind of just how things fall when you have a small team. But I especially like doing kind of level and content design, if that makes sense, like sort of focused on experiences and moments like throughout a game and how stuff and ideas develop. There's been a little bit less of that with the recent games we've been doing, but so I've kind of found myself more in a general design role. But it's like, that and programming. That's my main role on the team anyway.
Well, now that we have a little bit of an intro to each of you, I think it's best to get sort of the origin story of Merge Conflict as a group, how you all sort of met and came together. You were mentioning things about student organizations and game jams, but it'd be kind of fun to get like kind of a piece by piece. How did you all get to know each other? Like, how did all the threads get connected? And whoever wants to take that can tell part of that story.
It's all Connor's fault.
It's all my fault. So we all met in college. We were under the same degree plan, and for one of the classes we had to take was like a senior design project. So basically you would kind of like go into the class and form a team, and then basically just make a game in a semester. I worked with Jojo basically entirety of college, like doing a bunch of game jams. I had worked with Ethan and Melody like through classes on stuff, and we'd also maybe done some jams together. And then I mainly knew Karina through EGADS, which was like our student organization for game development at our university. So I kind of had this like idea of all these people, and I was like, hey, I'm going to do this class if y'all want to do it with me. And then the rest is history. So that's where we ended up making our first game.
Yeah. So all of you joining this one class, let's talk about the first game that you made together, how you kind of came up with those ideas and where you saw like each of the strengths that you had as you were kind of getting to know one another and testing things out. What the ideas were that came together to make your first game.
Yeah, so basically we had this, I had an idea for making a solar punk game. I just think it's a really cool concept, and there's not a lot of like, Solarpunk's a pretty new, I guess, like theme. And so I had seen some stuff online about it, and I was like, I think this would be so cool to like make a game, and there's not a lot of games. So that was kind of like my main idea. And then we ended up making like a 3D platformer called Refresh, set in a Solarpunk universe. So you play as a little robot, and your town gets destroyed by a big storm. And you wake up after, and you have to like help your community rebuild. And yeah, so that's kind of where it all started.
Sure. Yeah. So after you finish Refresh and through that process, Merge Conflict is born. When does Gemporium enter the picture? What was the original idea? How did you guys come to this as like your next major project?
I feel like it took a long time for us to get to Gemporium.
Yeah, it took a bit.
After Refresh, we went into it with another semester of class where it was like the whole idea of that class was to take an existing game project and launch it on Steam. So that sort of like snowballed into, okay, now we have to form a company because somebody's interested in putting this game to the Nintendo Switch. And so once we started getting the ball rolling on Merge Conflict as an idea, we were like, okay, what if we do this other project on the side, just with other friends as a portfolio project? Rip Bubble Punks, one day you will be made. And
No
it
leaks.
was it was a very ambitious project, and we have a lot of ideas for it, but we didn't feel like it was something that we were able to like fulfill our original vision and goals for it at the stage that we were in, just as developers and as people. And so we started playing around with a couple of different projects. We made a demo called Terminal North. That was the first project that we worked on when we were all living together in a house. And then we had to sort of step back and be like, is this like financially viable for us to work on a game that's a little bit longer? And will it sell enough to essentially pay off the time that we worked on it? Gemporium ended up taking longer than Terminal North would have probably taken in the end. But I think it worked out in terms of what's marketable as a game and whatnot. But I don't know, I think somebody else can probably describe.
I feel like the short game thing kind of, well, it came out of the being a new company and wanting to get experience and get stuff out there, but also it felt like it sort of went hand in hand with the fact that we're all living in a house together, which, like, to backpedal, I remember was it around when we were first working, like when we first formed the company, that I think Connor, you were the one who proposed the idea, right?
Of living together?
Yeah, wasn't that you?
I remember, like, basically we decided to do Bubble Punks and we were working on it, and then toward the tail end we were like, okay, all of our leases are kind of expiring and we want to make this game. I think the conversation just kind of naturally led to, like, well, what if we move in together and we finish this game, because it's going to be cheaper living for all of us. We're already, like, the game was going to take, we had like 2-3 year planned out timeline for it. And so we're like, okay, this feels like a step we could take in the direction of, like, this game getting made. And so we ended up not, finishing that game. And then we pivoted when we had moved in. But yeah, that's kind of what started the whole let's live together conversation.
Yeah. And to be honest, I think that is one of the coolest and most unique things about you guys and your team, is that not only are you younger than most of the people that I've talked to on this show, and you're early on in your game design career, but it especially feels like it because not a lot of indie teams live together like this. This is a unique opportunity for you guys that creates a unique culture where obviously you get along, obviously you're friends because you live in a house together. And
Yeah.
the moment I heard that, I'm like, oh, I like these people already.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that told us, like, oh, you're crazy, or like, oh my gosh, or you need to make TikToks about it. And, like, bro, we're trying.
We did do that part.
So we did make TikToks, and we'll make more.
There's definitely like a lot of, like, it's either going to be a success or it's going to, like, be a huge disaster if all of you guys move in together.
Now, everyone raise your hand. Was it a huge disaster? 2 hands, 4 hands.
No,
Whoa.
no. It's worked out, like, pretty well. So I think that we weren't, like, worried about it at all. I think there were people that were, like, rightfully concerned. But, like,
I was a little worried about it.
Especially with, like, the work-life balance thing. I think that's something that, like, all of us were also kind of, like, conscious about and, like, maybe worried of when we went into it. But we've been, really on top of, like, making sure, we see Melody at her computer at 8 p.m. It's like, what are you doing? Are you playing Minecraft or are you writing an email? Like, the email shit can wait for tomorrow.
So we've got the story of how you kind of all came together and started living together and all of that, but then Gemporium and the structure of the game, the identity of the game, what were kind of those core initial ideas that led to it becoming a project that you would then spend a lot longer on, as you mentioned, than you maybe were anticipating?
We did like a prototype. It was like 1 or 2 weeks of, like, every day each of us just, like, worked on a different idea, either alone or, like, with one other person, just to, like, rapidly get, like, we had, I don't know, at the end we had like 12, like, just really basic ideas of, like, cool little directions we could go in. But I feel like this is how it was on, like, Refresh and on Bubble Punks and then on Glimmer and now on the new project, where it's like Karina just ends up, like, sketching out some little thing and then we're all like, we need to tap into that. That thing that's like the coolest thing I've ever seen. How do we make that into something?
So, Karina, what was that first doodle that was the Gemporium kind of nugget?
So I think the first doodle was actually more of like a tech demo. That was a draw for Gemporium. I made a very simple shader. This was like the original idea for Gemporium was where the refinement minigame was in 3D. So it was like essentially a tech demo where you can, like, move your mouse and rub over a gem and it goes from being chunky to smooth, and that was it. There's like some other doodles, like actual 2D drawings of a mole and gems and stuff, but I think the idea of, like, polishing something was that was like the spark.
So we had, like, this day of presentation where everyone would, like, show their games, and kind of give the idea. And we wanted to have, like, okay, you show your prototype and, like, we can play it and everything. But some of them were just kind of like, okay, well, I ended up with this idea and I couldn't really realize it within, like, the 6 hours or whatever.
That's not a lot of time to make
right?
anything in a game.
So Karina, I just remember Karina's idea. She just had basically, like, a slideshow and it was like, you play as a mole and it's just like a mole in the mine, and you're mining up gems. And I was like, okay, I see where this is going. And then she was like, and then it was just the loop of like, you go into the mine and you mine for gems, you do a little mini game and refine them, then you go to your shop and you sell them, and then I think there was like fishing in there maybe
Yeah,
too.
it wasn't fishing. I was gonna say, wasn't it originally mostly like what do you call, I don't know what you call that kind of getting, like it was like a gold,
like panning.
Amber hunting in the Baltic Sea after a thunderstorm. There's a lot of amber at the bottom of the sea, and so all that amber like washes up on shore, and people would go out there with nets at night and like scoop up the sand and look for amber. And it's so interesting.
That's the
really
art
cool.
that I remember the most, and that wasn't in the final thing at all. But
Yeah.
But after that, we were like, this is such a good idea.
Obviously not on a systems level, not on a narrative level, but from the core concept level, it's surprisingly fully formed of the mole and the loop and the selling and stuff. And then so that's kind of cool that you were able to kind of get it from close to day one. It just was iterating on that and actually realizing that ended up taking the amount of time that it did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was also fun, the process of deciding on which prototype we wanted to go ahead with for full development, because we all had all these different ones, right? And we saw Karina's and we were like, this is great. But before we actually decided on it, we kind of had a system where we made a chart that ranked each prototype, because we were having a hard time deciding which one we wanted to go with. So we kind of ranked each prototype idea on different factors of like how appealing it was to make as a full game. So it was like scope, like how achievable is it scope wise? How much do we like the idea? How easy would it be for us to let go of it after a short period of time? Basically, how comfortable would we be making it a relatively confined kind of thing scope wise? And then I think there was, marketability, I think. Yeah. Yeah. So we like compared them, and I think Gemporium just won in that.
I think like we haven't mentioned it, but we went into this with the idea of let's make a game in a single month and then go from there. So we were like, we want it to be fast. We want it to be something that like the let go ability score is like, if we make this game and like it doesn't turn out the way we would love it to be, you know, the idea isn't, I guess, like fully realized, would we be okay like leaving it behind and moving on to something else?
And Gemporium scored high on that or low on that?
Gemporium scored high on everything. We were like, we feel like we could do.
So that was a lie. It's got scoring high on let go ability.
Yeah.
Well, what would the game have been like if you'd only worked on it for a month?
Honestly, pretty close to what you see today. We had basically every system stood up. So our timeline was like, we started in very late November, and then by the end of December, we had a lot of the art, we had mining, we had like the loop done. And then in January, we basically formed that into a demo, and then in February, we launched the demo for Gemporium.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like the core, like the very base, like core pillars of what makes it what it is were in there at that point, but there were so many features and mechanics and stuff that got added after the fact. That
polish too.
Yeah, a lot of that, and that I think made Gemporium a much better game. But yeah, like the core thing, pretty much what Connor said.
Jojo, Melody, any memories or opinions from this early days of Gemporium?
After that first month, it was basically like the demo V1 that we had. Like the most annoying thing to me that like I got really sad about was I was taking up the refinement mini game originally, and we just couldn't figure out a way to make the 3D work, where it was like just with like art struggles and engineering struggles, and we're like, no, this thing that felt so core, we had to kind of pivot away from, and then that's why it's now a 2D mini game. But yeah, I mean, it felt just like everything did kind of just click pretty quickly with it, of like everyone was like had their own system they were looking at, and then at the end of the month we were like, there's like almost a game here. This is kind of crazy.
Melody, how did you take the project initially, and what were kind of you as producing for the game? Kind of how did you decide the direction that it was going to go, or like trying to keep people moving along?
Oh man, it was so long ago already. But I do remember one point that really stood out to me was the feeling of getting a demo publicly available in like the month timeline. Like that felt really rewarding to say like we set a goal in the beginning and we actually did what we wanted to do. Granted, it went way longer than I think any of us thought, but even just getting that first loop I think was super important in a month of dev time. We got crazy cool feedback from players and we started to understand a little bit more of the marketing side. I feel like is that's when that first demo dropped is when we really understood a little bit more about what it takes to market a game and build a community around a game. And that was the snowball effect that led us into future months of development, I feel like.
Sure. Well, one like sort of through line between what all of you have said is that this game was intended to be something quicker in terms of its turnaround, but it became a larger scale project that I would hope you feel like it's that paid off. But I'm curious, if you were so confident that you needed to make a short turnaround game, why you let yourself have that amount of time that made it something that that took a lot longer? What was that moment of like, did you have a meeting? Did you have a moment where you realized, okay, no, this is worth putting a little bit of extra time and effort into?
We sat in the GDC hotel floor doing the application for Wholesome,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and that was like the moment.
That was a big moment. I think also we had this idea of like, okay, we're gonna make the game in a month, and then we'll push the demo live and like have the Steam page, and then kind of like market the game while we make the next one. So that was our goal of like make a game in a month, start marketing it while we make the other game. So we were working or we're working on it again now, but at the time we then started prototyping again. So I think while we say like, oh, it took way longer than we thought, like we kind of spent a lot of time doing other things as well. So I think it was still relatively fast. Like we learned how to do TikTok and marketing. We were posting on TikTok like almost every day, aside for like a few breaks we took from the launch of the demo until like the launch of the game. And then also like stood up another full prototype and had an idea for that and did work on that. I kind of forget about it myself, but like we did a lot of other stuff besides just making like working on Gemporium.
Well, and we were working on getting refresh on Switch at the same time.
That's true.
So like
That's true. Yeah.
we took a break like before GDC to do that prototype for the next project, and we were like doing marketing stuff, and we were getting refresh on Switch.
You're also doing some contract work.
Yeah. So like
yeah.
One thing about it is like it was still a pretty, all things considered, a pretty short dev cycle. Like it was like, what was it, like a cumulative
8 months maybe?
That's like over 8 months for like the full calendar timeline, but like in terms of the actual time we spent deving, like maybe even like half of that, or a little more than half.
Yeah, I think it worked out to about 5 months total. But yeah, we did a little bit of side questing.
But I like the fact that you're experimenting and learning and trying different avenues as you're so young as a studio, and you're really trying to figure out what direction you want to go in. And because the game took 5 months, was that amount of time ultimately worth it? Do you feel that you could have done it sooner? Maybe you could have taken a little bit longer. And then how does the amount of time that you took to make Gemporium, that 5 months, how does that influence your thought process moving into future projects? Is that the amount of time you want to spend on other projects? You want to go shorter? You want to go longer? What's that kind of thought process like?
I think ultimately 5 months was like the perfect development time for Gemporium. I think looking back, we could say like, oh, we could do that faster, but that's only with like having that Gemporium experience in the first place. A lot of that time was necessary mostly for marketing purposes, in that like we needed to build the wish list so that our launch could be like as effective as possible, essentially. Starting this next game that we're working on right now, the idea was really to do it as faster than Gemporium, which is not happening, mostly because again the marketing time just takes so long, and to split that in between like proper development and then marketing is just a lot for 5 people to manage. So
our strategy is just being sustainable as a studio. So we, in the past, like wanted to make this game that, was multiple years and we needed all this money for, and then kind of hope and pray, like if we got the money through like a publisher or whatever means, we kind of like cross our fingers that when the game was done, it would sell enough that like it would pay us back and then also fund like the next game, which is just like not sustainable for a team of our size, and like the financial situation we're in. So having like shorter games gives us the opportunity to like move quickly and develop a lot of titles. So we kind of have this like repertoire of games. And so that's kind of helping us like, we're not gambling the entire house and like whatever on one game.
It was nice though that it worked out. At least me personally, I always kind of saw something in it where I was like, I feel like this game could do really well for us. And I'm not gonna act like it's like some crazy breakout hit, but all things considered, it did above our expectations, which was kind of like what I was secretly hoping for, but I didn't want to like make it unrealistic. Yeah, I didn't want to jinx it. I didn't want to like make it disappointing if it didn't. But yeah, it ended up making back the money spent in the time that we developed it. Which was great.
Yeah, and I think that was like some of the work before launch was just, all right, let's double check the spreadsheets and like see our projections, how much money, how many wish lists do we need based on how many wish lists usually convert at launch. So we did a lot of number crunching, which is all just guesstimation, honestly. But it's nice to have tangible goals and numbers to aim towards and see like how quickly we're progressing there versus how we're not, or if we are not. I think like even for future titles, that'll be something to consider, to see just like how we're working towards our goals.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I want to recenter a little bit on the actual identity of Gemporium itself. One of the things that I think makes the game kind of instantly appealing and interesting are the couple of characters that the game has. Of course, you've got all these little animals that come in the shops, but the central character of Moelle, who's the protagonist, and Grand Mole, the Moelle's grandmother, that has a shop, and there's this whole little narrative. And I want to talk a little bit about where the character ideas came from and how you developed their personalities, and for you, Karina, their designs. Like, let's dive into the origin story specifically of Moelle and Grand Mole, the whole like supporting cast and identity of Gemporium.
Pretty early on, we were like, there's like the trope of like the getting the thing from the grandparent in the cozy game and learning how to run it, like with like, Harvest Moon and Stardew and everything. It's like you're inheriting a farm, and it's like, well, you can inherit this shop, and then the character stuff, because like we were really focused on standing up systems first and like getting the gameplay loop in. Kind of the narrative stuff fell by the wayside a little bit in the beginning, and then we had this idea. It was an exciting development for the narrative, whereas like we had this idea of so originally the Grand Mole is dead and you inherit the shop, and we were like, it would be the funniest idea ever if at the end of the game the loan shark like unzips his head and it's your grandma, and it was like her the whole time, and so we were just like operating with that as kind of like a baseline. Like eventually when we get around to putting in the characters and everything, that'll be the thing. And then like a month out from launch, I was like, okay, time to make the story of the game. And it just wasn't working at all. And so we completely rebooted the story, and we're like, okay, Grandma's alive and she's just going to be like an asshole the whole game. She's just calling you, telling you about how awesome her vacation is while you're going to be like stressing the hell out. And then Pietro was like, I don't remember where Pietro came from. We just said, someone said something about a pet rock.
We were thinking about tutorial. Like we should have like a character like you could talk to or like ask things about how shit works.
Which didn't really happen.
Which didn't end up happening.
Yeah.
But that's where I think the idea of like, oh, what if it was like your grandma had like a pet rock and then she left it behind, and then that's who's kind of telling you what's going on.
Yeah. There was a whole thing y'all were talking about, like having there be lore where like you find letters in the mines or something.
Yeah, that
like
was
before we decided that Grandma was alive, it was like y'all were talking about like the story being like like grandma writing about like having these crazy mines connected to her house that are like changing every night or something, and like they're shifting and she's going crazy.
Yeah, that didn't feel super in line with the tone of the game. I was like, you're like, it was kind of, it started to the more I started like kind of testing out writing different things for that, it felt more and more like Terminal North, like which was this horror game that we did a demo for, and I was like, I don't think this is gonna fit at all, with like just like reading the notes of your grandma going insane until she dies.
But then, like accruing debt.
Oh, and then I really wanted at some point to get in. I wanted Mole to have dreams.
That's right.
I wanted Mole to have dreams where the cash register would talk to you. And like,
wait, I don't remember this.
Either. I remember dreams, but
yeah, I was like, the cash register talks to you, and it's like it's like all the stress of the shop has like infected his psyche, and he's having these stress dreams. So I was like, it's like it was. I think it was like funny to find that tone between like the game is adorable because Karina drew all the art for it, but also like the actual mechanics of what you're doing is like, it's like stressful, and it's about, you know, you like are this character that is abandoned in this like hyper stressful situation. So it's like trying to balance that stress in a comedic way and seeing all the ways that it's affecting the character. And I was like, these dreams would be hilarious, but I was like, I don't have time to do all this whole thing to have all these dream sequences going on. So then, yeah, it just turned into the phone calls there in the game. Of your grandma telling you how much fun she's having, and then you telling her how stressed out you are, and her being like, whatever, I'm on vacation.
That's great, honey.
Yeah.
That's great, honey.
That's so nice, sweetie. Well, that's what's I think really interesting about the tone of the game is it presents as a cozy game. It's the art is colorful and the characters are cute, and the idea of running this little shop with your rocks is this kind of idealized cozy game concept. But the pacing of the game and kind of at least for me as I'm playing it, I got like really like sucked into, oh no, this is tight. The days are actually very short, and the amount of time that you spend on things, it runs your clock dry really quickly, and you can quite easily damage the rocks if you're clicking too fast and these things. So the gameplay of the game is actually quite tense, and so I'm curious where you kind of choose the balance of having the game either be relaxing or what at least I felt when I played the game becomes a little bit more stressful. How you kind of decided in terms of how long the days were going to be, how much things were going to sell for, how often the loan shark was going to show up. These are all pacing decisions that ended up in the game as it is today. And so I'm curious where those decisions were made and how the tone of the game evolved from that.
Age-old question. You should have played the February demo where it was.
Well, I didn't know about it till my birthday, so excuse me.
Yeah. Where that one, yeah, it was just like extremely short day, like even shorter days. I think the balance of the game is something that we had to think about over the course of development quite a bit, and with lots of playtesting, especially because like we would playtest obviously internally, and we're used to the game and we know it in and out, so we know the strategies and stuff. And then we would play with people in our Discord, which is where we would like drop updates to the build and be like, could y'all play test this and like give us notes and feedback on it? And they would have a different reaction. But eventually I feel like a lot of our Discord people got really into the game as well, and so they kind of picked up on it. And so the people we were playtesting with were getting used to like the pacing that we had, and then us playing the game, we were used to like the quick pacing. And it was until just like more public facing demo, like maybe Next Fest or earlier.
When the game came out, I would say.
Yeah, like definitely Next Fest when the game came out. We said it's a cute mining sim, and we have a lot of cozy audience type people. And I remember we included cozy mode pretty early on because of the audience overlap. But there was still more course correcting that we just needed to do that was hard to kind of delineate, like, this is our vision for the game and this is how we see it versus making it more accessible and like more open for other players and like different player archetypes.
I think it did end up being in a good place. I think something that was kind of going through my mind, at least when we were going through these questions, was like, can it be a cozy game by nature of the fact that it's a loop that you can really settle into, you know? Like when you look at it objectively, yeah, like you're on a time crunch and you have to be careful with your clicks and to not mess things up, and you have to open your shop at the right time, and you have to worry about the loan shark coming in and all that stuff. But it's very much a rhythm that you can get into. And that, to me at least, was kind of where the cozy came from, or at least maybe that was what I told myself.
Sure.
I don't know. I still kind of think about it sometimes. Sometimes I do kind of sit there and think about, like, is this a cozy game? I don't know. Like it is, but it isn't. And I think people had definitely varying reactions to it when it came out. Like some people didn't like the fact that there was so much emphasis on time and stuff like that in when the game released, because they were expecting something different. But I think other people really resonated with what we were doing, with the way we put it together. And I can't I'm not gonna act like we were all like 100% like we're going to have this perfect like challenging idea of like, can a cozy game be stressful?
Right.
But like as we were making it, because there definitely was a big factor of us being used to the game being used to the pace that the game was at, and our play testers being way bigger. It feels weird to say fans, but I guess like fans of the stuff we were doing. So they were way more into it. So they were way better at the game. So they gave us way less of a picture of how tense the gameplay was. There was a factor of that in it being maybe a little bit more stressful for some people than we intended, but also I think it did end up being the thing that we wanted it to be in the end. So
at the very beginning, there was discussions of, I remember we were talking about time being like, okay, you have a time to mine, then a time to refine, then a time for the shop. And that, I think, idea kind of, we didn't like it. And like, we wanted to do something else pretty quickly, because like we didn't even test it. We thought like, well, we don't want it to be so like boring, because we know the game is kind of repetitive, and we think that there's a level of like kind of min-maxing and like strategizing. Like, I know that this is like what I like to do. Like maybe I like to mine all day, and the next day I like to refine all the stuff I got. And like personally, like I love Stardew Valley, and I think that is like pretty widely known as a cozy game, but also like there's so many like number crunching and like min-maxing, and you're like, I gotta spend every second in the mines until I like, I think that feeling is like what I kind of wanted to evoke out of players. And like I think it kind of worked out. Like I'm happy with where the game is at, but it definitely was a challenge figuring out like, how do we make the day not so insanely stressful that people don't want to engage with it, but also not like too easy, and so people are like, oh, this game is just boring.
I think a big part of it was that when the game came out, people thought a way worse thing would happen if they didn't have enough money to pay the loan shark than what actually happens. Like people were super stressed out because they were like, oh my gosh, how am I going to make this payment? I'm never going to make. And then I think worst case scenario, they thought that their save might just be screwed and they would just have to start the game over or something. But that's not what happens at all. You just compound a little interest on your loan and it's fine. So I do wonder if part of the reason for people responding that way to it was just maybe some like a little bit better communication that we could have done on our part, but also it's kind of fun to have that tension and keep people guessing. So I don't know what the answer was for that. But
I think it's also kind of like cool the way that we work, at least, is that with like figuring out that stuff like tone and balance, it's just like a lot of conversation, because we don't have like, none of us are like project lead or director or anything. Like everyone has pretty equal input on what the game is. So I feel like maybe at some points I was kind of the imp on the shoulder of like, I want like stress them out, make it scary or make it worse. But then everyone else, correctly pointing out like at some point someone's going to have to play this game and pay money for it.
That's a great thing to remember.
Yeah.
Connor, you brought up Stardew Valley, which is one of my favorite games as well, and I could certainly, especially with the mines, feel some of the inspiration there. But I'm curious to kind of go around with everyone as you were making this game, what some of your personal design touchstones for design ideas, aesthetic ideas, tonal ideas that end up contributing to Gemporium. Because I have to say, and I don't know if this is true, but I hope to God it is, and I'm not alone. But I cannot imagine that this game is not inspired by Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. Am I? Okay, thank God, because Pokemon Pearl was my first video game. It was the first video game I ever played, and the underground and refining the fossils and getting these little gems and stuff. That mini game is so distinct that when I saw the gameplay of this, I'm like, you know, the moment in Ratatouille where he takes the bite and he's transported back to his childhood. I thought I was like,
we literally
I got a meme to show you later.
Yeah, Connor straight up made exactly that for a TikTok video, and it totally did not do well at all. But it was a great idea.
That would have gone triple platinum in my TikTok if I had seen it. But no, but honestly, it was like I haven't seen other games take inspiration from that game before, right? That element of that game, and so it was nostalgic and interesting for me as it hit a very personal thing where that game has been around for my entire game playing life. And so I'm glad I'm not alone that you guys also get that. But how did specifically, I guess, the underground part of Diamond and Pearl become we want to explore this a little bit deeper.
I feel like Karina and I just like looked and pointed at each other and we were like, Pokemon Underground? Pokemon Underground? High five.
Yeah, I think when I was first coming up with the game idea for the prototyping phase, that's like one of the main things that I was thinking about was Pokemon Underground, and I was also thinking about Fossil Fighters because I played a little bit of that as a DS kid. So Pokemon Underground, Fossil Fighters, and then also Nintendogs, because my favorite part about Nintendogs was when you shampoo and wash the dog, and like all the suds go from dirty to clean. And I was like,
I actually don't
great.
Remember you saying this at all. That's
it
awesome.
was in the back of my mind the whole time. But yeah, like those, it's just like a very satisfying thing, like seeing something go from like dirty or craggy, and then you like reveal the layers underneath. And then I think there have been some new games that have been coming out, or demos and stuff, that have a similar mechanic or mini game as like Pokemon Diamond or like the Pokemon Underground. I was just looking for more of it. I was like, if nobody's gonna make it, then I'll make it.
I'll do it myself.
When we were making the game, Karina had her Nintendog on her desk.
True, yeah.
Like, sometimes I walk by.
Nintendo.
That's fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel fake because I had Pokemon Diamond as a kid, but I was too stupid to ever get to the underground. I didn't even know this was a thing.
My guy, that's the second gym. That's really early on.
Dude,
in the game.
I don't even know how many gyms I beat in that. When I was a kid, I didn't like persevere in games. If I like got my ass kicked somewhere, I would just replay the same part again. I'd be like, I don't want to.
Here's the fun thing about all of this is especially on this show, don't get a chance often to talk to people that share similar gaming memories or design touchstones with me. We're all about the same age. We all grew up with DSs. This is an era that not a lot of game designers have ever had the chance to really pull from because you guys are the next generation of game designers. And so, I mean, now just a moment to talk a little bit about Pokemon Diamond and Pearl and why that feels so special to me, because I had the exact same experience, Ethan, is when Pearl, my first video game, I couldn't get through. There's the Valley Windworks where you have to battle Mars, and she has her Perugly, and that thing would whoop my ass 6 ways from Sunday until someone traded me, like one of my dad's friends' kids traded me a Kyogre, like a legendary from another game, and I just steamrolled the entire game with it. But because we were children and these games, we played them very differently. We didn't understand games. I know that feeling where it's like it seemed like an insurmountable barrier. By the way, Diamond and Pearl, not difficult games. If you go back and you play it, you will breeze through.
I'm sure.
But it's fun to, for the first time here, not hear someone citing Super Nintendo games or Doom or things like that. It's like, no, thank God, I'm not alone. Pokemon Diamond and Pearl and the vibes of Sinnoh are inspirational to a new generation of game designers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think even like, I mean, Pokemon obviously, and then like Karina mentioned Fossil Fighters as big inspiration for me, like making the mining mini game. But then just general like DS, like I think I wanted the game to feel like it would be a DS game. Like, and I think it kind of works. Like it there's a lot of like clicking, or I guess like touching, like you would use the stylus.
If it was on the DS, we would totally we should. I shouldn't say that in here, but if it was on the DS, there would be like using the mic to blow dust off the gems.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, for sure.
It also, I think,
100%.
Feels a little bit to me like something you might find on a Flash game site, and not in a negative way, but in that there's a lot of these games that would have that kind of shop management loop as like one of the primary engagement factors, and that's a lot of clicking. It's mouse only, and I'm wondering if is there any touchstones for any of you, any Flash games that might have like wormed their way into your mind as like inspirations for the game?
I wasn't a Nintendo kid. I didn't have like a lot of video games.
Everyone point and laugh.
So it's like. And so it's like I would, I was like down on the family computer. I would wake up like 2 hours before school, go to like, on addicting games or go on mini club or whatever.
Yeah. Nitro, oh my god,
Nitro,
the greatest. And so it's like I a lot of my like early gaming was like browser games, and I love all that stuff. And I think that there's like maybe an element that for me also like another touchstone was like the physical game of like those like things you would buy that were like the little blocks of fake sand, that had like toy dinosaur bones in them, and they had like a little toy chisel and brush and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like trying to, I think with that marries really well with like the kind of DS style thing of like really physicalizing the actions in the games and like making it feel very, very tactile. I think maybe there's like an unconscious thing going on of like the connecting these very childhood memories of each of us to the experience of being dumped into a business that you don't know how to run.
Honestly, true. Yeah, I never really thought about it like that.
Welcome to the psychoanalysis of the merged conflict development team.
Oh yeah,
which is something that I didn't really start thinking about until the game was pretty much done, and I was like, I think that maybe our unconscious has infected a bit of this, where it's like we want to create that childlike sense of play, like I want everything to feel like a toy that you're playing with, or like a Flash game or a DS game, but there's that like there's the debt always in your mind.
Yeah, it is a little ironic being like, this is our first commercial game that we need to sell well so we can continue to pay rent.
So the loan
and
shark
it's based around you paying off your comically large amount of debt.
Interesting. Especially as you're all recently graduated from college, you may or may not have a large amount of actual debt hanging over your heads. Very interesting. And so now all you have to do is refine your craft and sell the things that people want to them at the shop at the end of the day, and then eventually, one day, no more debt.
Mm-hmm.
True. We gotta unlock the computer.
True. We start gambling.
Well, that's another layer of the game that I think is very interesting, is the sort of tangential minigame modes and like mechanics and things that are not necessary to like really get into the flow of it, but do add a little bit of texture and flavor to the world and the way that you can approach the game. So I'm curious when these kind of additional layers of mechanics entered into the game.
I think those were a response to the Steam Next Fest demo reviews that people would give us. We had like a gigantic sit down of like, here are the problems that people are having with the game. How can we solve them? And like, are the solutions we are providing like actually solving the issue? Because a lot of people would give us suggestions after playing the game of like, you should add this, you should do this. But sometimes when you get feedback from people, what they say they want and what they think the solution is doesn't actually solve what their problem is.
Congratulations, you are learning game development.
Yeah.
Or sometimes like it's just not feasible for us. Like we had a planned launch date in mind. We knew we were going to launch August 7th by the time we got into
I launched
Steam
August
Next
7th.
True. No early access or nothing.
No, I was actually early access because I was a preemie baby by like 2 months.
Oh, wow.
Early
Yeah,
release.
my mom paid
Nice.
for the premium bundle.
Shadow drop.
Yeah, then they
Sorry.
put me in the like you're a tiny little baby and you can't breathe on your own section of the. That's what early
Damn.
access is.
Well, glad you made it because
Yeah, I
we
made
wouldn't
it
be
out.
here in this
You and
interview.
They
Trent-
put
Trending.
your
Yeah.
ass in the pod.
You know, Death Stranding. It was like that.
Yeah, like Death Stranding, exactly. We had this date in mind, and we had kind of been like developing with a demo first mindset. The only difference between the demo and the full game was that we started working on the full game after Steam Next Fest.
And keep in mind, Steam Next Fest was early June.
Yeah.
So the timeline between then and launch was not long.
Was
Yeah.
it really that tight? I feel
Yes.
like
No narrative.
Well,
We had a
it
meeting
was,
after Next Fest that was like, this is what we're gonna add to the game, and then we did it.
It was like we did development for Steam Next Fest, like the updated demo, but that was also development for the full game.
Yeah, like it transferred over, but like a lot of the like all of the other systems we added of
The
like
computer.
the computer
The narrative.
basically, and then all of the narrative was after Next Fest. So it was like, what can we do in the short amount of time that solves these player issues? And it's unfortunately not letting them put gems into jewelry and then selling that, which would have been cool, but
Yeah, the specifically with the whole computer thing, it was done to address a commonly cited issue of just the game felt too repetitive. Like people seemed to say like it felt like there wasn't quite enough breaking up the loop. So we sat down and we were kind of thinking about what other stuff can we add that can break up the usual pace of the game, and you might not necessarily be engaging with every single day of the game, but you can. So it adds like a little bit of variety in how things are structured. And of course, the game is still very repetitive by nature, but I think that addition did help things out a little bit.
Also something to do with your shitty cracked gems.
yeah. And also a way, it was kind of a problem solver for everything, a way to kind of manipulate like what you would find in the mines, because that was also a big request by people.
Yeah.
And we needed to get raccoons in there somewhere. And also, online gambling is very funny.
We had an idea. This was Jojo's idea. Actually, do you want to talk about it? The screen.
I don't know. Oh, I'm sad we didn't have time. But I was thinking at night you like go to your computer and you go on your harmful websites. And then I was like, every time you leave the computer, it should be like the old monitor you're like shutting off, and you should just see Mul's face reflected like briefly back in the black monitor. I think that'd be funny. But yeah, it was like
tired.
I don't know. It was just like what more horrible, like it's like horrible stuff that you can put in this cute environment where it's like of this like capitalist literal hellhole that Mole finds himself in, where you have the loan shark and you have the people the market manipulator bats, and then it's like, what's another fun shady thing we can put in? It's like online gambling.
I also want to think a little bit about, as you've moved on from Gemporium, as we're recording this, it took us a while to have all our schedules align and actually end up doing the interview. We're over 3 months out from the launch of the game. And so I'm curious, just reflecting on it, how you feel the game has been received, the sales, if that's like really hitting what you kind of hoped or that kind of thing. And then also kind of what you've learned from the game that you're going to apply to working on, as you are now, your next projects.
Ooh, that's a good question. I think like I speak for everyone when I say like we were, the week before Melody mentioned like having the spreadsheet with like the numbers, and we're trying to figure out like, oh, what's the wish list conversion with what we have right now? What can we hit? And we were completely like blown away by not only the reception, but also just like how financially viable the game was, luckily. So that was really cool to see that a lot of people like clicked with the game, and like a lot of people commenting like, oh, this reminds me of Pokemon, or this reminds me of Fossil Fighter. So it's cool people seeing that connection. But it feels really good and satisfying, like having it be not only like a game that was something new, like a new development cycle for us, trying to be sustainability focused, and it also was like a financial success. Like I feel really proud.
It's really cool. I think one of the craziest things about it has just been like seeing how frequently people are streaming it and stuff and making content about it. And interesting hearing the variety of responses and types of stuff people are making with it. We got our first like Holo live stream. That was pretty crazy.
What does that mean?
Holo, like, you know, like they're like the VTuber
sure.
agency, like the biggest one.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. They seemed to really enjoy it. It was cool. But the response to it has been really cool. And like, I feel like going forward, we have learned a lot. We had like a whole post-mortem section after we took like a 2-week vacation after the game released, because we were like, we need a break. But we have like a whole slew of stuff that we wrote down that we feel like we learned from the experience that I can't recall off the top of my head, but we definitely learned it. Don't worry.
You might not remember it, but it's in there somewhere.
It's in there. It'll be in there when it gets called to me.
I think like as a whole, all of us learned a lot about marketing and sort of like using the Steam algorithm kind of in our favor as much as we could anyways. Connor did like a big like deep dive into marketing a game and all the stuff that goes into it, and him and Melody and Jojo were doing a lot of applications for festivals and everything, and like that whole process and that side of the game development that we're not like the most familiar in, I think is definitely something that we'll carry forward into future games.
Yeah, for Gemporium, we kind of got really lucky. Like we just applied for like whatever, and like Karina mentioned, I was just like reading a bunch of blog posts and like seeing what other people did, and like, okay, I will do this. And so we had a lot of beats that lined up with like big festivals. Like we were in Wholesome Direct, which was awesome. We took part in like the Secret Sauce Showcase by Off Brand Games, and then like showcased at Open Sauce, which was really cool. And just like we had things line up really well for us. And then I think going forward, kind of looking into the future of like, okay, what are some beats that we can line up this stuff for like our new game and like the demo launch, you know, like the launch of our game, like what are events that are happening, and kind of being more forward thinking about that stuff is definitely helpful.
I think you should launch alongside GTA 6. That'd be my recommendation.
Honestly, I've thought about it.
Wouldn't that be very interesting?
You don't scare me.
No spoilers for the next game, but it is a bit of a GTA killer.
Yeah. There's a reason they had to delay. I'll just say that.
Strauss Zelnick looked into your files, like, oh shit.
Yes,
we had a leak and they got a bit spooked.
I was just gonna say, like, for me, from a production standpoint, I think something I took away from the postmortem and just like the overall Gemporium development cycle, I kind of like reworked how our workspace, like our, because we use Notion, so I reworked how our Notion workspace looks, and like I think that's really helped us keep in mind like our weekly goals, and then also work towards our actual like bigger chunks of milestone goals. I think in Gemporium we kind of did what do we want to have by this next build, and then we would just like write a list of everything and then work towards that, but it wasn't ever structured out super far. And so I think talking more with the team about like, all right, what do we want to do for those different milestones? I think it feels better than Gemporium, hopefully. We'll see, I guess, how it pans out like at the end of development, but so far I feel like that's something I'm trying to like take into the next project.
Yeah, I think another thing that we're also carrying over into it that I was happy about how it went with Gemporium was, I think we started really getting a better hang of, I don't want to say design style because it's not the entirety of how we design things, but a design technique, I guess, of looking at how things are going in the game and what problems there are and coming up with stuff specifically to solve those problems, right? Because we had stuff like the gameplay felt too repetitive. We added the computer stuff. We had stuff like the gems are cracked and you don't feel like there's enough you can do with them. So we that was also part of that. But there was also things like getting to do the like the shop felt like there wasn't enough going on, because originally it was straight up just you just give the gem to the customer and they take it, right? So then we were kind of sitting and thinking, how can we add more interactivity and decision making to this? So that was how the haggle ability came about, which was kind of creating like a risk reward thing of like you could lose shop reputation or take more time, but then they end up liking the gem. It's just another thing that you get to do. It was a similar thing with the refining mini game. Originally, it was just you click on the different little rock pieces and they go away. We thought, how can we make this more interesting? Okay, turn it into a kind of quick time event. Coming up with that stuff was my favorite part of designing Gemporium, and I think that process of looking at what's not working here and what is a thing that can specifically be added that works within the design philosophy of the game as it is already. What is something like that that can be added that fixes that problem? And I think we're already starting to bring that into development of the next game.
What about the some shop customers have stinky poopy butts mechanic?
Oh, yeah, the stinky customers. I think that it was also just another, like, we wanted like, oh, you basically just drag and drop, or maybe you drag and drop and press a button until they take your gem. So we just wanted to have more like, oh, you're paying attention. And a lot of people wanted to skip customers in the shop. So we thought, like, well, that's kind of a boring upgrade to have, because like technically you're losing money if you skip a customer. But we still wanted people to be able to do that. So we kind of combined the two. So you could skip customers and there were stinky customers. So you have to skip the stinky ones or they steal your money.
Okay, well, I think as we wrap up here, I just want to know if there's any final fun stories or memories you have from developing any elements of the game or its history that we didn't touch on that you want to make sure we cover before we say goodbye.
I'm very proud of everyone, and I feel like it's a very like bizarre situation to be in, to be 20, well, I guess 25 now, and like basically have my dream job, at least for now. Fingers crossed. So I feel like with like just everything with this project, it feels like, maybe we can do it. Maybe we can make a video game that people will send us a little bit of cash for.
Yeah, it's weird, like feeling like accomplished, I guess, or like I feel like we're all the kind of person that like we're not trying to toot our own horn or like brag. But every time I look back at like the development of Gemporium, there's always like something that I feel like I forgot of, like, oh yeah, that's kind of crazy that we ended up doing this thing, and like that was like a big hurdle for us, and like we got past it. So yeah, I'm just really proud of everyone and like how far we've gotten, and I'm very excited to see where we go.
Yeah.
I say I think the official company motto should be, how hard could it be? Like that's like we've just keep getting ourselves into trouble, but just going, how hard could it be?
Let's just try it. Let's do it.
And now it's working.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining me, for really getting in depth with who you are, what your team is, what the game is. I hope everyone watching learned a little bit of something about Gemporium. Stay tuned for more games from the team in the future, and go check out Gemporium and Refresh on Steam. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for sitting down with me.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It's been great.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.